June marked another dip in the India-China relationship, with the two countries facing off each other at the border tri-junction with Bhutan. In an unprecedented move, Indian troops intervened in support of the Royal Bhutan Army after the Chinese People's Liberation Army refused to stop work on a road leading into Bhutan. China, on the other hand, alleged that it was Indian soldiers who crossed the boundary into China to interfere with the construction of a road. So what is this standoff all about? At the center of this clash is the disputed territory of the Doklam Plateau, an 89 square kilometer pasture that holds strategic value for each of the three countries. And what's at stake for each of these countries? Well, China has been pursuing an ambitious road construction program for over a decade and wants to build a road through this disputed territory. Now, Bhutan is alarmed by PLA's intrusions into its territories and so has allowed India to intervene on its behalf. India has moved knowing well that China's presence in this region could give it military advantage over India. Take a look at Doklam Plateau's location and it becomes clear why it is a bone of contention. It is located on Bhutan's western border with Tibet and overlooks the Chumbi Valley in the intersection of India-China-Bhutan. If claimed, it will make it easier for China to conduct military maneuvers aimed at blocking the Siliguri corridor, the narrow stretch of land that connects India's 8 northeastern states with the rest of the country. In fact, China has already built a highway that allows the 500-kilometer-long journey from Lhasa to Yudong to be completed in 8 hours or less. In the next 2 years, a branch of the Beijing-Lhasa Railroad too will be completed. This will allow for rapid movement of troops and armor right up to India's gateway, the Nathula Pass. It is this strategic advantage that India would not want to concede. It sees China's road construction work in this area as a dagger pointed towards its so-called chicken neck sector in the northeast. Further, currently India has a brigade-sized military presence inside Bhutan stationed at Ha that allows it to attack the Chumbi Valley from 2 sides, potentially cutting off the Chinese troops stationed facing Sikkim in the event of war. China's hold on the plateau will weaken India's edge. Doklam Plateau but is just one of the territories that Bhutan has been negotiating over with China. In 2004, in order to put pressure on Bhutan to concede disputed territory, the PLA began a series of intrusions into the Charitang Valley, stretching all the way to the Royal Bhutan Army's outpost at Laregang, several kilometers behind the country's claim line. It also began road construction work on bridges along the Zuri and Phutiogang ridges, overlooking the Charitang Valley in 2009. These intrusions sowed the seeds of distrust, and more than a few Bhutanese diplomats wondered whether China could be trusted to keep its word even if a deal was made, or whether its strategic ambitions did not stretch to reducing Bhutan to a vassal, just as it had threatened early in the century. In fact, this dispute over Doklam Plateau goes all the way back to the last century. And here is a quick piece of history. In 1890, China and Britain signed a treaty stating that border runs west from Dokalam along the ridgeline, that is, south of the Doklam Plateau. This claim is disputed by Bhutan that says that the 1890 convention applies only to the borders of India and China and not Bhutan and China, as they were not consulted. It is this treaty that China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs cites to stake its claim on Doklam. Interestingly, until 1959, China had made no such claims. But things began to change in the late 1960s and with China's roadworks program. It began turning on the heat in the Chumbi Valley to put pressure on Bhutan. Faced with sharp Bhutanese protests, a status quo agreement was signed in 1988 and border talks began. Article 3 of this agreement noted that prior to the ultimate solution of boundary issues, peace and tranquility along the border should be maintained and status quo of the boundary prior to March 1959 should be upheld, and not to resort to unilateral action to alter the status quo of the border. Clearly, China is violating this agreement. So far, the two sides have had 24 rounds of talks. In the process, Bhutan has conceded a great deal of Chinese claims, and by their reckoning, there are only now some 269 square kilometers yet to be settled. 2 chunks in western Bhutan and an 89 square kilometer area of Doklam where the present problem is focused. But China's pressure tactics and intrusions into the country have made Bhutan uncertain about its intentions. And India's decision to commit militarily in Bhutan has changed the game for all sides.